old school bodybuilding clothing company. If you're the hardest training person at your gym, you are old school. If you hate math but you can count by 45s, you are old school. OSBBC.com for the hardest training athletes.
After working hard at the gym, you need a mattress that works as hard as you do. Spinalign has engineered the perfect mattress for you and your active lifestyle. Don't compromise your recovery with inferior sleep. Order your Spinalign mattress today.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions, diet, training, supplementation. Obviously, the Olympia wrapping up this past weekend, an exciting show it was. We see a new Mr. Olympia in Big Ramy. Big Ramy finally delivering the goods. Winter is here. Big Ramy is your new Mr. Olympia as we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, holiday sale kicking off right now at speciesnutrition.com. It's going to be running between now and through Sunday night. 25% off and a free t-shirt at speciesnutrition.com.
Yeah, I figured for Christmas we got to give away something, right? I got to give you a gift. So we're going to give a free Species Nutrition t-shirt. They're the soft fit, really cool premium t-shirts. They're not the crappy, thick ones that you're never going to wear again. These are things that you're never going to want to take off. You've seen me wear these shirts. They're super comfortable. We have all the sizes in stock. The key is on checkout, okay? First of all, you can use the holiday code HOLIDAY25 and you will get 25% off anything you buy on there. Make sure you put that code in on checkout. Make sure you add your t-shirt and make sure you pick your size. If you don't do that, don't cry to me. You're not going to get the t-shirt, okay? And that's from now through Sunday at 11:59. So you guys got the whole holiday weekend to buy stuff. If you remember something, you want to buy a gift for someone, maybe you receive some money for Christmas, you want to go spend it. We're going to make it the whole holiday weekend. Free t-shirt, okay, if you spend $50 or more. And of course, there's free shipping over $100. Now, if you were I'm a smart consumer. If you're a smart consumer, especially if you're going to buy protein, you better spend $100 so you get the free shipping. Because shipping is expensive on the big tub. So we're giving away a lot this weekend, and I know you guys love those t-shirts. I just got them back in stock. They're super great. I can't wait to put them out there. And don't wait, because it's while supplies last. Last time we did a sale, we ran out of t-shirts. Now we just got new ones in, and we got a couple hundred, but sometimes, these sales go crazy. So don't wait, okay? Have a great holiday weekend.
So let's get into the questions. Again, all our Olympia weekend material right now on the channel. We have some recap videos lined up, some big guests lined up to break down what happened this past weekend at the Olympia. Let's go to the questions. Of course, the first 2 questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question, Dave, what's the best gear for me to use as a fighter the last few weeks before a fight?
Gear has always been something that's non-logical when it comes to fighting. And the reason is when you're fighting, speed, hand speed, movement is very important. So you would think, let's put halotestin, let's put trenbolone in, because these are aggressive drugs, right? Anadrols, they're gonna make me want to tear the other guy's head off. And that's true, but they will slow you down because they're gonna make you hold fluid. Okay, so you don't want to do that. What you really want to do is take those drugs and then stop them at 2 weeks before, the ones that are going to heavily glycogen load your muscles, and maybe just stick with like Anavar and some Winstrol the last 2 weeks, so that those don't really hold water, those drugs, but yet you'll still have strength from them. You're not going to lose your strength, but the aggression is not going away after 2 weeks. Or 10 the last 2 weeks. If you stop the Trenbolone and stuff like that, you're not going to lose that. So last 2 weeks, you got to be careful with drugs that make you retain too much glycogen and get you too amped, because once again, if you have too much volume and you can't move fast because you're like bogged down, that's not good. You want speed, you want it to be light, you want to be able to move quickly. And that's my experience working with MMA fighters. And I'm not going to mention guys who I've worked with, but all of them have noticed the same thing. Like the high aggression drugs definitely will slow you down if you stay on them right through the fight.
Well, Dave, I'll throw on top of that. I mean, don't most organizations test? And I mean, isn't there a cutoff date at a certain point where you have to take everything clean out so that you're not going to get dinged?
Right. Now, if you're being tested, that's a different story. I mean, a lot of the organizations, Sid, will test you in off-season, during, not just the day of the fight or before the fight. So if that's the case, you're really kind of screwed. But if you're only getting tested on the fight day or like a day or two before, I would just stop. I would just stop everything at 2 weeks out. And make sure obviously you time the drugs you're taking, that they're out of your system properly. And that's another whole show we can do. But the bottom line is that if you can take stuff up to the day of the fight, because it's not like a UFC, fight or something like that, I wouldn't go right to the day of the show with the heavy androgens.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, I know you've put out a baby-making protocol for men. Do you have one for women as well?
Here's the thing. Most of the time, it's not the women that are the problem. It's the guys. Low sperm count, low motility, poor morphology, the structure of the sperm. And we've talked about how to combat that. Morphology, or the structure of the sperm, take demineralize and omegalize. It's really a vitamin, mineral, essential fatty acid thing. As far as motility goes, how fast or how well they swim, injectable glutathione seems to work amazing. Believe me, it worked for me, and I didn't even know it. So I got my third kid. And TitanMedicalCenter.com sells that. You can get that over there real easy, 200 milligrams a day. As far as numbers of sperm, nothing beats HMG, which is human menopausal gonadotropin. If you can't get that, synthetic FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, they make that now almost the way they make GH. They synthetically make it using bacteria. And you can get that from TitanMedicalCenter.com as well. So numbers, structure, and ability to swim, those are the three things you really want to address when you're looking for how can I maximize my sperm. Now, as far as being a woman goes, if a woman is the problem, meaning she's not ovulating or she's not getting regular periods because her hormones are out of whack, that's something a doctor should address. Okay, you don't want to just arbitrarily take Clomid, okay, or FSH, HMG, that kind of thing, because now it's just going to make her crank out, tons of follicles. You could have like a septuplet or octuplet birth. You could have 8 kids, 7 kids. You don't want to do that, because you know what the problem with that is? Even though it might sound cool, those babies are born very premature, very small, and a lot of times they have a very high incidence of birth defects and stuff like that because they're so underdeveloped. So you don't want to mess with, never give women fertility drugs. Let them go to the doctors and deal with that. Most of the problem is us idiot men, because we take steroids and we suppress our bodies, so we got to turn it back on. So like I said, if it's the woman's fault or she's got the problem, let the doctors address it.
Let's get to our Instagram questions. Again, this past weekend, Olympia weekend, obviously we generally are going to see a big spike. We did hit a big spike and we crossed over 200,000 subscribers. We're at 201 right now. And again, we thank all of you that stuck with us throughout the course of the year, and then especially over Olympia weekend. We really tried to keep our Instagram feed as sort of a live play-by-play of sorts during the Olympia weekend, during prejudging, during finals, and then of course loading everything else on our story. So hope you enjoyed it. And again, thank you for all the support. If you haven't already subscribed, official_RxMuscle.
Sid, I want to just personally thank and congratulate both you, Ralph Noble, our photographer, and your assistant, and Chris Aceto, the whole RxMuscle staff that went there and risked being exposed obviously to COVID. And you guys did a phenomenal job, man. And you got tons of content up. I mean, your interviews were great. And I got to tell you, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you're the voice of bodybuilding now. I mean, you did some crazy, great announcing. I can't tell you how many emails and text messages I received from people telling me that, man, Sid was great as the house announcer there, and they want to see more of you emceeing shows. I don't know if that's something you would want to do, but I know you would certainly love to MC the Olympia at some point in the future.
Yeah, no, I mean, opportunities came along, I'd love to. So,
Great
but
job.
I wanted to give a special shout out. You said my assistant, Lionel Castellano, he was the one doing all of our videography. He took some stage shots as well. If you are a competitor and you need a great, photographer for your next shoot, he was doing photo shoots post Olympia weekend as well. His handle, I'll give him a shout out. It's Photo by CAZ, Photo by Kaz at Photo by Kaz. Did a great job for us, helping us bring you all the videos, all the wrap-ups, all the interviews this past weekend. Let's go to Teddy Grants 84. Now, this is something that you talked about leading up to the Olympia, which would be fun to see. Why don't the 212, the Open champ, pose down for a title? I mean, it says overall, if not overall, at least for a title, something for the fans.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did a video this past week, because there was a fun video of Ramy and Chris Bumstead posing down at the gym. They were doing a photo shoot together, and they hit a couple shots. And I said, you know what? I've been saying this for years. Why not? I always said 212 and the Open guy, but I'd say 212 Open and the Classic Physique guy. Get them up there for an overall. Even like he said, if it doesn't count, who cares? I want to just see it as a fan, see how they match up. Or give an overall prize. Everyone's got their own title, but then give like a, best in show, like they do with the dog shows. Obviously a Mastiff and a Maltese you can't compare them in terms of at a dog show, but they do a best in show just to see who the best dog in the show was at the end. It doesn't mean that it diminishes what the Maltese did or the Bull Mastiff did in his own category, but it's just because this is the best dog in the show. So if Chris Bumstead won, and beat out Ramy, he would be the best bodybuilder in the show. It doesn't mean that he was better than Ramy in terms of bodybuilding purposes. It's just that that's what the flavor of the night was. And so I think that would be a great idea. I put it out there to Dan. I know Dan listens. I know Dan will probably process it and talk to the some of the powers above him and see what they think. And they should do it for women's bodybuilding and women's physique as well, because it's the same exciting type thing. I would love to see the winners of both categories just square off a best woman in show, best woman bodybuilding show, so to speak. If you want to throw the figure girl up there, let her hit a few shots too, I'm all for that. You can put the wellness girl up there, throw them all out there,
So we have a couple of Big Ramy related questions, and similar to when Sean Roden won the Olympia in 2018, I guess then you look at the dichotomy of a mass monster in Big Ramy winning in 2020. The question of direction. So the question from Big Daddy Jenks, do you think that Big Ramy winning the Olympia represents a shift towards size being the new standard?
I brought that up in my wrap-up with Lee Priest, and we're going to talk about that on Iron Debate today, but you can't help when you define one person as Mr. Olympia as set a new standard, because now if this guy is the standard, everyone tries to chase that standard. The problem with that is that most people are not going to be able to get as big as Big Ramy. But the guys that are the fledgling guys, the guys that are just getting into the sport, if Ramy wins for the next 5 or 6 years, the new guys coming up, that's what they're going to aspire to be. Okay, that doesn't mean that the guys in the division, okay, who have you're never going to see Lee Labrada at 300 pounds. I mean, Lee Labrada. You're never going to see Hunter Labrada at 300 pounds on stage, okay, because that's not going to happen. But that might push a Sergio Oliva to get bigger, and try to, because he can hold mass on his body. But the guys that are, at the amateur level now and are looking at Ramy and are training in the gym are now going to push to be like him. Like when Dorian, became Mr. Olympia, that's what motivated me to be as big as I became, because I wanted to be like Dorian. Had I been out there already, maybe I wouldn't have gone that direction. So, sure, it definitely has an influence on how people will perceive, what they want to look like, and you get what you think about. So if you think about wanting to be a huge monstrous bodybuilder, we're going to get more of those guys out there, and I think that's good, because I think we were lacking that. Yeah, it's nice to have shape guys, but we have classic physique now. If we want to watch beautiful, bodies posing on stage, I want to see some big freaky guys now out there. Now, obviously, I don't want to see big, huge, bloated guts and stuff like that, but it's not mutually exclusive. We can have both, and so I think we might see the ushering in of a bigger bodybuilder again. Look, my father said it years ago when God may bless, rest in peace. Ties would go in and out of style. The thin ties to the wide ties, the thin ties to the wide ties, and he had both in his closet. And I always asked him, "How come you have these two?" He goes, "The thin ones will come back in style," and that's what happens. Same thing with bodybuilders. We get bored of the same physique. All right, Phil Heath's out. Now we got a mass monster back in here. All right, we'll get him for another 5 years, and then we'll get sick of that. We'll want another Sean Roden back in there. So that's just the way thing goes. Beards are in style. No facial hairs in style. We switch around because we just get bored as a people. No one's creating anything new. We're just rehashing old stuff and making it a little bit more modern.
And I guess the follow-up to that is from JDL 21. I guess any potential mass monster era, who do you think, and you mentioned that you could have some amateurs coming up, and you did mention Sergio Oliva Jr. If you had to name a couple of names right now, who could potentially, over the next couple of years, challenge Big Ramy in terms of a size contest?
Oh, Rulli Winkler is the obvious choice right there. I mean, he's a guy who can certainly, Ian Valliere, who's getting better and bigger every single year, can certainly stand next to him size-wise. I don't know what Hunter Labrada's potential is. He's a big guy too. He might, he's young. He might put some good size on and challenge. Akeem Williams is getting bigger and bigger every year. I mean, he's another guy who can pack a lot of mass on his structure. So we're going to see a lot of guys who are moving up the ranks, so to speak. Even Nathan D'Asher really has the ability to put on a lot of size if he wants to. Maybe he hadn't because he was competing against the Phil Heath. Maybe now this will get him to bulk up a little bit more and put on some more mass. Obviously, Brandon Curry is never going to have a physique that's going to be a mass monster. He's just going to have, size, shape, and separation, and that's his look. But there's a lot of guys. Look at Nick Walker, who just turned pro at the North American. He's a freak. Imagine him in 5 years with another 25 pounds of muscle on him. He'll stand next to Ramy on that stage. So there is a lot of definite potential out there.
We saw Nick Walker shortly after the 212 final. Him and he's part of the Team Sean Clarita. He took one look at me and he just said, "I want to be on that stage next year." So
he could have been on it this year for if he would have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had more time.
It would certainly be exciting again. Someone with his profile, that size, that freak factor, to bring him up in the mix as well. Let's go to Dan's here. A good one here. Simple one, basic one, but about, again, your upbringing in bodybuilding. Your experience in trying to find your optimal training split.
I was a chronic overtrainer when I first started because I came from a runner's background. And long-distance runners never take a day off. They just keep trying to run more and more and more. They think more is better. And it to a certain degree it is. I mean, if you run 10, 15 miles a day, the more you run, the better the more endurance you have. Obviously, you're limited by recovery, and I never really, when you're 20 years old, you don't care about recovery. You don't think that that's important. You just sleep a little bit more. But when I started bodybuilding, I realized that you have to take days off, because I originally started, I was training 7 days a week because I was so excited about putting muscle on, and I didn't want to miss anything. And I came from that runner's mentality of never taking a day off. And I seen the biggest guys in the gym were taking days off. I'm like, "Where were you yesterday?" "Oh, it was my off day." I'm like, "Off day?" He's like, "Yeah, you got to take days off." I'm like, "You do?" And so when I realized that I started eating more, I was growing more, and then I started taking a day off here and there. It was initially just 1 day a week off, and I responded just to the 1 day. Finally, I figured out what works best for me, because I was doing those double splits, which was not really double splits. I was doing the 2 body parts per week. So I would train my chest twice a week, my arms twice a week, my shoulders twice a week, because that's what everyone did. It was like a 3-day rotation, and then repeat, and then you get 1 day a week off. And my body just doesn't recover from that. So when Dorian came around and said I'm doing one body part per week, I'm doing one body part per day once a week, that's what I started doing because I wanted to be like Dorian. And man, wow, did I grow. When I went to 5-day split, 2 days a week off, I would go 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off, and I would train each body part once a day. That's when I found the magic started. And then toward the end, second half of my career, I actually even went to an 8-day split. I've talked about this before, where I trained 6 days out of those 8 days, and I took 2 days off. But like 2 of those days were just like, one day was just biceps and forearms, and another day was just triceps. So it was a really short day because I was really trying to prioritize my arms, and it worked. So more rest worked for me. I don't know if it'll work for everyone, but I hit it so hard. I would train so intensely on the days that I did train that I didn't want to train more than once a week. And you know what? I needed the rest because I didn't need to. Some guys, they don't train hard. So they're like, I can come and train. I could train chest 3 times a week. Well, if you feel like you can train chest 3 times a week, you're doing a crappy workout. And you're just basically doing an endurance workout. You got to damage those muscle cells and then let them recover.
Good one here. I don't know if this is something that you discussed with Lee. Flex Lewis, given what we saw this past weekend on the Olympia stage, how would Flex Lewis have done in that Olympia lineup?
It's a good question, and it's very hard to kind of figure this out because, first of all, I don't think Phil deserved to be third. I think that Hadi Chupin probably should have been third. I would have had him there, and I probably would have had Phil out of the top 5, to be honest with you. But I don't know how Flex would have stacked up against some of these guys. I don't know if Flex would have beat Hadi Chupin. Hadi Chupin almost beat him at the Korea show back when they were 212 guys. Now, Flex obviously has gotten much better. Flex could have gone in here and he could have won the show for all I know. I haven't seen him standing next to these guys, so it's very hard. I know Flex number 1 would be in the best shape of his life, so that would put him probably into the top 6 conversation right away. He's a great poser in presentation. He's got some freaky body parts and separation, and he's really not lacking in too much. So I definitely see him as a top 6 guy. Where he would have fit into that top 6, we would have had to see the comparisons because you can't just say, because he looks good on his Instagram and we've seen him on a 212 stage that we can immediately, figure out where he would have fit into this lineup. It's very hard, but he would have certainly been top 6.
Derek Lunsford is one T Bam Bam. This is another one of those questions that was bandied about ever since the 212 finals, which was on Friday night, and that's about Derek Lunsford. Do you think he should go to the open class? There are questions about it. So let's stick to the, where he goes. Do you think he should stick it out in the 212 or head to the open?
Here's the thing with Derek. I think he's messing up the last 2 weeks, but I don't know if he's messing up the last 2 weeks because he's having trouble making weight, or if he's messing him up because he just doesn't know he just doesn't have the right formula. If it's the fact that he doesn't have the right formula, or maybe he's panicking, or maybe he's not doing things, right, then I think that he should try to really perfect what he's doing and nail his conditioning properly. If it's a matter of that he just doesn't look good when he has to suck down to this certain weight and it's messing him up, then move up. He's young. You know what I mean? I say if you're young, you move up. The bottom line is in bodybuilding is to be big. His body can hold a lot more mass on it. He doesn't have enough muscle maturity right now. That's the way at least I'm seeing it. That it's to show off the detail he needs to beat some of these freaky guys in the top group. Sean Clarid has been training 20 years. Derek hasn't. So I would say Derek, pound those weights heavy, get bigger, and do the open class. If you can come down and make weight, okay, after you put the exercise on, then great. But train like you want to go into the open. Maybe do an open show even just to test the waters. But if it's a matter of not peaking right, I'd love to get a hold of him. I know he lives pretty close here, just to help, that last week or two, because that's all it's going to take is a little tweaking, I think. And maybe he's not suffering enough. I don't know. Maybe suffering too much. Something's going wrong the last 2 weeks.
Time for a couple more questions. Maloney RY, this is regarding TRT only. Dave often talks about getting off everything for guys who do high dosages to clean out receptors. Wouldn't this still apply to TRT dosages then, since it's still exogenous? At what dosage is the cutoff from when you need to get off totally to clean out versus okay to stay on long term?
If you're on TRT, which is 200 milligrams a week, as far as I'm concerned, even if your levels are in the normal range, like 850, something around there. The problem is if you're going to go back on cycle after, you're not allowing those, the receptors are not going to upregulate just because you're on 200 milligrams because you've dropped the dose. At least this is what I've witnessed empirically on myself, the 1 year I didn't go off, and on a lot of other people. They don't respond when they don't go off. So you can go from 3,000 milligrams a gear a week to just 200 milligrams a week, thinking your body will detox on that. In other words, you'll clean out because you're not taking a toxic dose now. But I don't feel the receptors don't seem to resensitize themselves at the same level, so that when you do raise the levels up of what you're taking again, your body just doesn't respond. So you got to separate detoxification plus receptor regeneration. And there's no way to quantify receptor regeneration other than what I can empirically witness. Okay, so don't start quoting research. I'm telling you what I know. I've been doing this a very long time. You can detox and clean the body out on 200 milligrams a week or 100 milligrams of testosterone a week. You can't reset the receptors to the same sensitivity level that they were, okay, by not going off. So this is the holiday season. It's winter. Go off. You're not going to lose anything. Eat right, train right, sleep a lot. Give yourself 8 to 10 weeks. Clean out completely off everything. You take your HCG and Clomid for 4 weeks and then 4 weeks of nothing. And I promise you, you'll gain back every ounce of muscle you think you lost in the first 4 weeks, and then you will make tremendous progress because your receptors will be. Think about why is a woman so responsive when they go on anabolics? Because their receptors are the androgen receptors are so sensitive because they produce minuscule amounts of testosterone in their body. Their adrenal glands produce a DHEA, which gets converted into testosterone in very small amounts. And if their bodies have to be able to respond to that. So they have a lot of receptor density for that. So when they take anabolics, it's like, holy mackerel, they respond so well because they have so many receptors. That's what you want to create in your body as a man. You want that androgen receptor sensitivity back. The only way to do that is to get rid of the hormone. The body doesn't know what's going on. It doesn't know that you're lacking testosterone. It thinks there's not enough receptors to recognize it. So it increases receptor density, looking for more hormone. At some point, obviously, it's diminishing returns. It's not going to keep increasing. But I find that in 8 weeks, you can restore that receptor sensitivity again. And then when you go back on, you respond that much better. So you could do whatever you want. You could say Dave's out of his freaking mind. But I'm telling you guys, I've done this a long time. I know what works. This is what works.
Before we get to the last question, again, a reminder, Species Nutrition Holiday Sale, Holiday 25 for 25% off, free t-shirt with purchase of $50 or more at speciesnutrition.com. All right, Dave, so we've gotten this in a lot of different variations, as you can imagine, over the course of the weekend. In this list right now, I'll just pick this one out from Franklin at an hour. Hi, Dave. Are you feeling a bit panicked right now?
I always panic. That's my MO. We're going to have Dennis James actually on the TV show a little later. The funny thing was I didn't even say Chris Aceto said, I asked Chris a question on Heavy Muscle Radio about what you felt about seeing Ramy doing like a lot of supersets and training with Dennis James. He's here 3 weeks early. Is that a good sign or a bad sign? And Chris said they're in panic mode, meaning Chad is in panic mode with Ramy because he's obviously not ready. And so everyone took that. Dennis James and Chad, I think, got insulted, not in a personal way because we're all friends, but I think in a professional way they got a little insulted that we were suggesting that maybe they didn't know what was going on or something like that, or that Chris was, and that wasn't the case. What the case was, they were panicking, okay, and that panic was good because in the past, if you didn't panic, okay, what happens? Ramy comes in and he's not at his best again. So Chad and I don't know what went on, but we'll ask Dennis. Chad and Dennis and Ramy must have got on a phone call and said, hey, Ramy, why don't you go train with Dennis James? Now, behind Ramy's back, I'm sure Dennis and Chad were probably saying, Dennis, you keep an eye on him, make sure he follows the diet, he gets all the training, he does all his posing, and this way nothing can go wrong. Because Chad had a formula that works, and I'm sure there's a lot of coaches that could have gotten Ramy in shape too. The problem was, obviously, maybe Ramy was distracted or he wasn't able to put forth that effort that he needed to. With Dennis there ain't no way Ramy was cheating. He wasn't missing workouts. He wasn't missing posing sessions, and it worked. So that panic, okay, actually made Ramy his best. and got Ramy the Mr. Olympia championship. So, guys, you should be thanking me for calling out what it was. And if you want to call it out as anything else, then you let me know what it is, because that's what it was. Hey, we can't let this thing slip through our fingers again. We better act quick, get Ramy out to Dennis James, and it worked. And you know what? No one's happier than me, because I've been waiting to see Ramy as Mr. Olympia for 7 years now, and you guys finally did it. Bravo.
So there you have it. Winter is here, Big Ramy, your 2020 Mr. Olympia, and Dave certainly is not panicking. That is going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave. Reminder right now, speciesnutrition.com, holiday 25% off, free t-shirt, $50 purchase or more now through Sunday night, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For Dave Palumbo and Tyler Shore, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.